So I was taking my rabbit's litter box out. I thought, maybe that's what the problem with all these kids nowadays are. Of course, I'm not saying that they mess. Well, apparently every generation has a problem with the generation before them, the generations before them, understanding what the heck they're doing. Like now, all these kids with this transgender stuff, everybody's going like, "What the heck are you doing?" And I think what the problem is just the internet generation that's grown, that's not that watched it develop and then finally become it, and you can walk into it. You had your thought that you had before the internet. Well, since the internet's come on, it's basically taken over thought. So everything born of, say, the internet generation, everybody is born while internet was big on impact. I mean, there was like back in '74, I think we had a Commodore 64 or something like that. Really, just you had to program to get a noise, and it took you half an hour to an hour to get like one beep out of it. You had to type in a bunch of code to get a beep out of it. And I was like, I don't think I want to do this. But everything's expanded. I knew it was going to progress to where it'd just be a block and you just punch into it. But if you wanted that noise, anyway. But that it wasn't just well, it's we had a long time before the internet came in. You gather your thought, you know what your thought was, and nowadays I think the internet is so big, or the kids being born into it. The internet, so many decisions, everything. You go to a store, you go anywhere. You got the White House on the internet. You got foreign leaders on the internet. You got police on the internet. You got criminals on the internet. I mean, everything's on the internet. It's basically what thought used to be on the internet. Only now it's well, anyway, it's more basically you're going to have when you go to truth to look for truth, you can't go to the library because the libraries, most of the stuff in there is will probably somehow, unless it's hit be prior to the internet, you're not going to get anything other than like internet. I mean, there's always something being talked about, even in books or what articles or something. It has something to do with the internet, and kids are being born into that, and it's basically taking place. It's taking the place of their thought instead of people don't realize that you used to have your own thought, and now you can separate your own thought from the internet. Well, the kids nowadays, I don't think can separate, and that's the reason they're so. I mean, it's addictive. You play a game on it on the internet, and it's addictive. Or if if you want to laugh, you'll sit there for hours. You can scroll through stuff and laugh all day. But or if you want info, I'm not saying all the info on the internet is good. In fact, a lot of it's pretty far off truth. Not far off truth. I don't mean truth. I mean far away from truth. I mean it's complete and utter baloney. I mean, if you're looking for something, I mean, a lot of people are giving reviews. They're not honest about them. They're either getting paid or they want something for it. They think, well, if I give a review, somebody will do something. There's nobody giving honest anything. It's like, well, I'm going to say something on here like, I don't like this or I like this product, and maybe they'll do something with me for the saying. It's just like advertisers on TV used to be. You'd watch it and you go, wow, it's not, life is not like that. But I think the kids born into, or not born into, but born in the internet generation, when it's bigger, trust the internet more than their own thought. It's like they don't have the ability to reason. And the internet, if you think they're almost being programmed. We is programmed by TV radio. You know, if you went to activities if you whatever you went to all the time or listened to all the time, that was basically your programming. And then to get away from programming as a kid, and they still do that. Like your parents, when you was little, they paid attention to you, and then you got into a certain age where maybe they're telling you how cute and fluffy you are, you know, or whatever around your friends. You know, when you was smaller, you was alone. It was like, oh, okay, they're saying that. But then you get around friends and you have the interaction with your friends or people you hang around with, and you don't want to be called cute and fluffy. You know, I mean, some people might, but I mean, you try to get away when you get around other people that are peers, and that's where your actions or your thoughts and stuff changes because you're not happy with what you used to be happy with is maybe this or cute, you know, your parents talking cute or whatever about you. So now you're more self-aware of what other people are thinking, how like your parents react to these. So that's where the generation gap's from. You start to pull away from your parents and you start to do what these people that probably don't care about you can call them friends, and you know, I'm sure there are people that trust trust a friend in, you know, every situation because they've maybe grown up around them or something like that. But there's also people that will use you and stuff. So that's what it used to be like. But now, see, I don't know if they've ever had the interaction of everything's on the internet. It's like, oh, we trust everything on here. And the only way that switches their thought off is when the agenda comes around and says, this is wrong, and that turns and the internet, if there's enough people on the internet saying something's wrong, like you know, whatever it is you know, they didn't like Trump yet. I mean, look at the economy compared to them to now, and there's the agenda says you like Democrats more than you like Trump. I'm just using that as a reference because everybody understands what that is. Most people will be, oh, I don't understand why you're saying Trump's. I'm just saying the economy. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Whatever. I'm just using that as a reference. Just like some people, you know, they look back and say, well, Reagan was a great president. Well, he was popular, but taxes. I think he thought, you know, I'm going to. Now, back then it was like balance the budget. We're going to get out of this. We're going to lower the all our deficit and all that. You know, we're going to get out of owing money. We're going to balance the budget. And so he said, well, to do that, I'm going to raise taxes. And that's all he did. 8 years of raising taxes. But he told jokes the whole time. And when he talked, everybody liked him. They forgot that he just raised their taxes. And then Bush ran, and he said no new taxes. I don't know. I can't remember. He had taxes on. He was what? He was 4 years or something like that. I can't remember what he was. 4 years. And I think Clinton took over. But anyway, what I'm saying is we had some. It was like, well, that was going back with the agenda. But I mean, you had a separation of thought where this is something, and then you had to go to someplace else to get a different thought. You had to say you had to go to school. You had the thought there, and you went here. Now everywhere you go, it's internet, and people have the kids. Everybody has internet in their hand, and that's what they're programmed by. And that is basically if they're chasing popularity, then they're doing whatever's popular. You know, I mean, there are different subjects and different ways of being popular on the internet, but it's internet based, and these kids grew up in this, and so everything it's almost like I don't think they can. That's why you don't see them. I mean, there are parents that raised them to go outdoors and stuff like that, but I mean, you know how people say that the problems with kids nowadays. Well, it's just like everything. Music, you know, it's big, and that what took everything. They was always around the music, or they was always around TV, or they was always whatever it was, whatever generation it was. And But I think that's what the problem is, that the agenda comes around, and that's what's controlling their thought. Instead of them being in control of their thought is the internet. It's basically their brain. So they put everything into it, and they don't know how to separate. They've never had the separation. It's always been the internet. So basically, that's basically them. And I think that's what the problem is when they hear something on the internet. That's why they're turning. That's why it's so all this mass of popularity for some stuff, and you look at it and you go, wow, that's kind of crazy. And I mean, hula hoops, look at that. I mean, they developed as an exercise, I think, or a dance or something, and then it wasn't very big. And you look at it and you think, wow, you're not really, I mean, you're just swiveling around. But anyway, I think that's what it is. I think the internet is their brain. They've never had anything else besides the internet that they connected the music comes from everything comes from the internet. There's no like the radio station. If it is, it's something they've heard on the internet. And that's why they're so good at it, because they're trying to get in contact with their brain, and their internet is their brain, because that's what's overwhelmed, just like every fad before them, for any generation. I don't care what generation it is. Could be the Industrial Revolution took over people, before that. But I think that's what the problem is. It's they don't know how to separate from the internet, because it's their brain, it's their thought. I think that's the reason you have kids doing this transgender and just thinking, well, I should just take drugs and lose my reproductive system or whatever. And that's crazy. And that's the internet. So you don't see people walking around the street except because they've seen it on the internet. Is like, this is the stupidest stuff I've ever heard. So that's what I figured as I was taking my rabbit's poop out to dump it in my compost pile.